You know that moment when you realize your parents, well, they weren't exactly telling you the truth. I'm not talking about Santa or the Tooth Fairy. I'm talking about all those scientific facts they swore were gospel. Turns out, some of the most common things our parents told us about our bodies, our brains, and the world around us, science has completely demolished them. And I mean completely. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into 10 lies your parents told you that actual scientists have proven wrong. And trust me, number 3 is going to blow your mind about something you probably still believe today. Number 10, the myth of the sugar-induced rush. Let's start with the big one. Every parent's favorite explanation for why little Timmy is bouncing off the walls at birthday parties. Oh, he's had too much sugar. But here's what science actually says. This is completely, utterly wrong, and we have the controlled studies to prove it. Back in 1995, researchers at Vanderbilt University conducted what's considered the definitive study on this. They gave some kids sugar, others got artificial sweeteners that tasted identical, and here's the kicker, neither the kids nor their parents knew who got what. The scientific term for this is a double-blind study, and it's the gold standard for eliminating bias. The results? Absolutely nothing. Zero difference in hyperactivity between the sugar kids and the no-sugar kids. But here's where it gets fascinating. When parents thought their kids had consumed sugar, they suddenly started seeing hyperactive behavior everywhere. Kid jumps once? Sugar rush. Kid laughs loudly? Definitely the cake. The parents were essentially creating the hyperactivity in their own minds. So what's really happening at those birthday parties? Well, think about it. Kids are excited, they're playing with friends, they're probably sleep-deprived, and they're in a stimulating environment. They'd be just as hyper if you gave them sugar-free cake. The sugar was never the culprit, it was just the convenient scapegoat. But if sugar doesn't make kids hyperactive, what about that other thing your parents told you about your brain? Number 9. Debunking the 10% brain usage myth. Humans only use 10% of their brains. Sound familiar? This one's so popular that Hollywood has made entire movies about it. You know, the ones where someone takes a magic pill and suddenly they're solving quantum physics while doing backflips. But here's what neuroscience actually tells us. Your brain is already going full throttle, all the time. We can literally watch this happening. Using modern brain imaging technology like fMRI and PET scans, researchers at institutions like Harvard Medical School and Johns Hopkins have observed brain activity in real time. What they see is activity everywhere, constantly. Even when you're sleeping, your brain is controlling your breathing, managing your heartbeat, and yes, replaying those embarrassing memories from middle school. Here's a mind-blowing fact. Your brain only makes up 2% of your body weight, but this overachiever uses 20% of your body's total energy. That's like having a tiny space heater that devours electricity. But why is this myth so appealing? Because it offers hope. If we're only using 10% of our brains, imagine what we could accomplish with the other 90%. It's the ultimate self-improvement fantasy. But here's the thing evolution teaches us, nature doesn't keep useless stuff around. If 90% of your brain was really doing nothing, evolution would have eliminated it millions of years ago. Brain tissue is expensive to maintain, it requires massive amounts of energy and resources. The proof is in what happens when even tiny parts of the brain get damaged. A stroke affecting just a small region can cause major problems with speech, movement, or memory. Every part matters. This 10% myth likely originated from Harvard psychologist William James in the 1890s, who said people weren't living up to their full potential, not that they were only using 10% of their brain tissue. Somewhere along the way that got twisted into the myth we know today. Number 8. Why a penny dropped from a skyscraper isn't lethal. Picture this, you're standing at the top of the Empire State Building and someone drops a penny. Your parents probably told you it would gain so much speed that it could punch through someone's skull down below. That's not just wrong, it's physics-defying wrong. Here's what actually happens. When that penny starts falling, yes, gravity begins accelerating it downward. But then air resistance kicks in, and this is crucial. Air isn't empty space. It pushes back against anything moving through it. According to research published in the Journal of Physics Education, a penny reaches what's called terminal velocity after falling about 50 feet. That terminal velocity? Just 25 miles per hour. That's slower than an average bicycle rider. But the myth feels logical, doesn't it? Something falling from that height should be dangerous. Our brains naturally think, more height equals more danger. The truth is, getting hit by a penny at terminal velocity would feel like someone flicking you, annoying, but definitely not fatal. Now, if you dropped that same penny in a vacuum, like in space, it would reach speeds over 200 mph. But down here on Earth, with our atmosphere, you're actually more likely to get seriously hurt by a falling ballpoint pen. Those things are aerodynamic enough to act like tiny arrows. Number 7. Lightning can and does strike the same place twice. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. This is wrong on such a spectacular level that Mother Nature seems to be personally offended by it. The Empire State Building gets struck by lightning approximately 25 times every year. There was a park ranger named Roy Sullivan who got struck by lightning 7 different times. 7. They called him the human lightning rod, and incredibly, he survived all 7 strikes. The saying probably exists because lightning strikes seem so random, so chaotic. How could something that appears so unpredictable hit the same spot twice? But lightning isn't random at all. It follows the laws of physics. Lightning takes the path of least resistance to the ground, which means it often hits the tallest objects repeatedly. If you're the tallest thing around, like a lone tree in a field, you're basically wearing a strike me sign during every storm. And here's something that would have terrified our parents. Lightning can strike miles away from the actual storm. These are called bolts from the blue because they literally come out of what appears to be clear sky. You could be standing there thinking you're safe, and suddenly, lightning strikes. Number 6. The myth of the horned Viking helmet. Vikings never wore horned helmets into battle. I know, this one hurts. It's like finding out pirates didn't actually say air or that cowboys didn't have constant standoffs at high noon. Archaeological evidence from actual Viking sites shows their helmets were practical, plain protective gear, maybe with a simple nose guard. The British Museum and National Museum of Denmark have extensive collections of Viking artifacts, and not a single horned battle helmet among them. But the horned helmet image is so iconic, so perfectly Viking-like. It makes them look more dramatic, more fearsome, more like what we think barbarian warriors should look like. This whole horned helmet thing was invented by opera costume designers in the 800s. They were designing costumes for Wagner's operas and thought horns looked dramatic. They accidentally created one of history's biggest fashion lies. And when you think about it, horned helmets would be tactically insane. Going into battle wearing something that gives your enemy 2 perfect handles to grab? Or horns that could get tangled in tree branches during a raid. Real Viking warriors were practical people who wanted to survive battles, not look good in them. Now, they did find some horned helmets in Denmark, but these were from 3,000 years before the Viking era. These ancient helmets weren't for fighting, they were ceremonial, like wearing a crown. Those opera designers probably saw these artifacts and thought, perfect, let's make the Vikings wear these. Number 5. Why shaving doesn't make your hair grow back thicker. Shaving makes your hair grow back thicker and darker. This is one of those myths that feels so logical, so obviously true, that it survived for generations. But it's complete biological nonsense. Here's what's actually happening. When you shave, you're giving each hair a tiny flat top haircut. Imagine cutting a tree straight across with a chainsaw. That stump feels rougher and looks thicker than the naturally tapered end of a branch. Same principle applies to your hair. Studies published in the Archives of Dermatology spanning decades have found that shaving has zero effect on hair growth rate, thickness, or color. Your hair's characteristics are locked in by your genes, and that razor isn't reprogramming your DNA. But the stubble feels so convincing. When hair grows back after shaving, it genuinely feels coarser and looks darker. Our senses are telling us the myth is true. Here's the ultimate test of this myth. If shaving really made hair grow thicker, every balding guy would be shaving their head daily. We'd have solved male pattern baldness with a can of shaving cream and a disposable razor. But Jeff Bezos is still bald, despite being able to afford infinitely expensive razors. The myth persists because the stubble genuinely feels different when it grows back. It's the same hair, just with a blunt end instead of a natural taper. Number 4. The myth of waiting to swim after a meal. Wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming, or you'll get cramps and drown. This myth is so widespread that lifeguards used to enforce it. But there's zero medical evidence that swimming after eating is dangerous. The American Red Cross, the organization that literally writes the book on water safety, officially states this isn't a real danger. There's not a single documented case of someone drowning because they ate before swimming. Not one. The theory was that after eating, blood rushes to your stomach for digestion, leaving your arms and legs without enough blood, causing cramps. But our cardiovascular system is far more sophisticated than that. It can handle both digestion and physical activity simultaneously. Now, might you get a minor cramp if you swim intensely right after eating an enormous meal? Sure, similar to how you might get a cramp running after eating. But that's discomfort, not danger. Competitive swimmers actually eat during their training sessions to maintain energy levels. The only sensible guideline is maybe don't eat an entire pizza right before doing intensive swimming, but that's just common sense, not a safety requirement. Number 3. The myth of losing most body heat through your head. Put on a hat or you'll freeze to death because you lose 50% of your body heat through your head. This is thermodynamically impossible. This myth originated from an old Army survival manual claiming 40-45% of body heat escapes through your head. But in their test, they dressed people in full winter gear and left only their heads exposed. Of course, most heat escaped through their heads. It was the only part not covered. Heat loss is proportional to exposed surface area. Your head makes up about 10% of your body's surface area, so it can only lose about 10% of your body heat when it's the only thing exposed. But your head does feel colder faster than other body parts. That's because it has more blood vessels close to the surface, making you more aware of temperature changes. The only time this advice makes sense is for babies and small children. Their heads are proportionally much larger compared to their bodies, so they do lose more heat there. But for adults, your uncovered arms will lose just as much heat as your uncovered head. Number 2. The 3-second goldfish memory myth. Bust it. Goldfish have a 3-second memory. This is not just wrong, it's insulting to goldfish everywhere. These little swimmers are actually pretty brilliant. Scientists at Plymouth University put goldfish in mazes, and not only did they solve them, but they remembered the solutions months later. They can recognize human faces, distinguish between different pieces of music, and even learn tricks like swimming through hoops or playing soccer. But the 3-second memory myth is so convenient, isn't it? It makes us feel better about keeping fish in small bowls, and it explains why they seem to forget things. Imagine being a goldfish in your bowl, thinking, oh look, it's Dave again with the food. Same time as always. Some goldfish can be trained to tell different pieces of classical music apart, and they can do all this with a brain smaller than a pea. Researchers at multiple universities are now studying goldfish brains to better understand memory formation, because their findings might help us understand human memory disorders like Alzheimer's. Number 1. The 7-year gum myth. What really happens when you swallow it? Swallowed gum stays in your stomach for 7 years. This is our grand finale of parental misinformation, and it's spectacularly wrong. According to gastroenterologists at Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins, when you swallow gum, it travels through your digestive system just like any other food. The only difference is that your body can't break down the gum base, so it just passes through. Think of gum like corn kernels. It goes in, it comes out, usually within 1 to 2 days. It doesn't stick to your intestinal walls like some kind of biological post-it note. But parents worry about anything their kids swallow, and 7 years sounds scary enough to prevent gum swallowing. The myth serves a purpose, it's a deterrent. Here's what's funny. Humans have been chewing random stuff for thousands of years. Ancient Greeks chewed tree resin, Mayans chewed chicle, and none of them died from mysterious 7-year gum buildups. Gum won't stick in your stomach, but it will stick on sidewalks for years, which is probably where this myth should have focused its energy. Questions for you. So here we are, armed with the truth about these childhood facts. But this raises some fascinating questions, doesn't it? Why do these myths persist across generations? Is it because they serve some deeper purpose, like helping parents manage children's behavior or making complex concepts seem simpler? And what does it say about human nature that we often prefer compelling stories over complicated truths? How many other facts that we accept without question might be just as wrong? Most intriguingly, if our parents were wrong about these things, what are we unknowingly passing on to the next generation that science might debunk tomorrow? You know what's beautiful about discovering these myths are wrong? It's not that our parents were lying to us. They genuinely believed these things because that's what they were taught. These myths reveal something profound about human nature. We're all just trying to make sense of a complex world with the best information we have at the time. The real gift isn't having all the right answers, it's maintaining the curiosity to question what we think we know, and the humility to change our minds when science shows us a better way. A world full of information, perhaps the most valuable skill we can develop is not just knowing facts, but knowing how to verify them. If this video just shattered some of your long-held beliefs, you're definitely going to want to stick around for more myth-busting content. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, so you don't miss when I tackle more facts that aren't actually facts. And speaking of myths, What's something your parents told you that you're now questioning? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one, and who knows? Your suggestion might become the next video. Give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new, and share it with someone who probably still believes at least 3 of these myths. Until next time, keep questioning everything, even the things that seem obviously true. That's how we keep learning and growing.